Okay, when you talk about cultism, the fact is that cultism has never slowed down since it became an ugly situation in all the tertiary institutions in Nigeria. There are activities of cultism happening here and there. It has even gotten loosed out of the university system into the public space, where these guys have indoctrinated very young people in the society. Like in the recent time, there were cultist activities within Benue in Nohimini area that sacked almost some communities. 5 people were killed by cultist gang actions. So when a very topical issue like cultism was suggested to me to deliver in the University of Jos, I took it upon as a responsibility, as an opportunity also to talk to these young people about the danger of cultism.
As much as one would like to talk about the evil of cultism, there are immediate causes that create room for the youth to indulge in this kind of mischievous practices. But it's not an excuse, okay? Nigeria has copied so many things from the international society, the Western world, America, and etc. But we never copy rightly. There is something, the word social security. Social security is a combination of partnership between government and entrepreneurs within the confine of a nation. Why is social security necessary? It is necessary because without peace, there cannot be development. So civilized nations come out to structure a system that accommodates every segment of the structure of a society. The youth, the very young, that is, when you go to England or in Europe, you hear about child support.
But when you look at cultist activities generally, what has led to this? The people between the age of 15 to 35, described as the youth of any nation, have huge tank of energy. And if there are failures in government policies that does not try to incubate and capitalize on this huge pool of energy and direct it positively, then there will be crisis in any community. In our time, like I've always said, I give accolade to the military era of General Olusegun Obasanjo, by era in which I was a young man coming out from secondary school. In those days, when students graduate from schools, the local government take responsibility to ensure that young school leavers have something doing while they wait for the result of the JAMB or WAEC to go to higher institutions. And when the time comes and those people that were lucky to get admission to higher institutions, once they leave, the other ones that were not very lucky, most of the time because of performances in the school side or JAM, thereabout, the local government system does not just throw them away. They give them a form of permanent job in the lowest scale of, let's say, scale number 3 or 4. At that time, I can't remember. And they are gainfully employed and deployed to ministries within the states. And this was a time, like I graduated from secondary school in 1978. And this is the period that the local government system was so organized that they created a kind of direction for the youth. Your parents might not be educated to understand counseling, but the local government cultured the youth. So there was no time for people to become idle. Okay, if an idle man is the devil's workshop. Now, what led to cultism in the university system? In the lecture there, we traced the history of cultism, or let's say a kind of fraternity that was created by the Professor Wole Soyinka. But in their own time, it was a different era. It was a pre-independence era. They wanted to assert themselves in several ways in social enterprise and ensure that their rights were protected within the academic cycle. However, when cultism went into criminality, that all were as a result of inability of institutions or government didn't comprehend the explosion of population in Nigeria and the after effect of population explosion, because facilities were going to be strangulated, opportunities were going to be tight, and once opportunities are tight, it means that those that are not within those opportunity envelope will start creating problems for society. So that is the essence of social security. In civilized countries like Europe, the UK, and America, there are social security for this age grouping. And I think that because of the paucity of fund in the system, government can still also do something. Not everybody should go to the university. A system where people from secondary school are targeted to do specialized skills like skill acquisition institutions, like it happens in Germany. And you can see that average German sincerely does not really want to even go to the university, because there are institutions like polytechnics that train them in different fields. So every German child, by the time he's 18 years old, has something effectively he can use his hands to get himself stabilized. Okay, so now back to the educational system, the cultism in the institution. One, the security arrangement in civil universities cannot contain the criminal act of cultism. Because if you have the university system and you have the security, if the security in the university system is not combative enough, it cannot control cultism. Because if the cultist group who are fond of harassing people or trying to recruit people by all means, if the student does not have a place to make a case that I am being forced to join a bad group, or the ladies that have no other opportunities but are being forced to be raped, to rape, because they do not have any place to go, They cannot go to the police. Within the confines of the university, there must be a solid security setup that have the authority, that have tools to combat cultism. Not the basic civil securities that abound in Nigerian universities today. They cannot combat cultism. If young people become nuisances in the university system, there must be a system that should evolve to counter that nuisance. In current schools in America today, because there were rampant cases of wild and criminal way of shooting, all the securities there are armed. So any group that sneak into the compound, you are sure they're going to have a good shootout and to their own disadvantage. The security system in the Nigerian system in the universities must be re-engineered. What is the use of retired military officers that are abound in all the states? University system should seek for legislation for a very combative security groupings to man universities. It is because the cultists have easy way. They are armed with guns, machetes. They are armed with all sorts of weapons. And even with the civil society groups, security groups in the university system, are even afraid of them. The professors or the lecturers are afraid of them. And that is why, because they are so afraid, these boys have the effrontery to even recruit or forcefully recruit lecturers to do their biddings. It is an ugly thing, and Nigeria must deliberately come up with solid policies that will combat cultism. Today, we have cases of banditry. We have cases of kidnapping and asking for ransom. These are the boys that get involved, because when they are escaped from the universities, their gangs go into this kind of criminal adventure. But in the bottom line, a student cannot report a case of harassment of cultists to the civil police, because if they do and the police comes after these guys, there wouldn't be enough evidence to nail them, and when they return back to freedom, they go back to their victims and embarrass and harass them more and even kill. So the immediate environment of the university system must be encouraged to have a robust security outfit, such that it becomes a kind of a deterrent to cultist activities within the university system.